A negative bias for, I don't know how many of you guys have done the foundations courses. So a negative bias for you foundations guys is a DST attractor. That's what it is. And if you haven't done, if you don't know what a DST attractor is, talk to Susan this afternoon and do the foundations courses. An attractor, like a negative, so you don't know what a negative bias is? A negative bias is everybody is a threat. So the child is prone to see threats where none exist. Okay, let me give you a digression here. One of the measures that we used in the Mary study was we would show kids 3 photographs of, you remember it was Shireen who did the photos, eh? So we had one of our grad students, PhD student, was an actress. She was an actress, wasn't she? Something like that. That's Eunice, if you don't know who's talking to me. So we showed the kids these 3 photos. And one was, so Shireen always, and one she looked, you can correct me if I get it wrong. One was a neutral face, one was an angry face, and one was a happy face. That's all it was, yeah. And so what happened was, all of our kids, or almost all of our kids, were struggling with a negative bias. And at the beginning of treatment, they would see all 3 photos as angry. So they misperceive facial expressions, either neutral or friendly. And if you think about it, if you know someone who has a negative bias, it's quite interesting how they can rationalize their misperception. Well, it's not a real smile. It's concealing what he's really thinking. And what he's really thinking is, I'm going to get you. So what happens with a negative bias is your perceptions of other people become distorted. And so you start to see threats where threats don't exist. But even more harmful is that your self-perceptions become very negative. So, and this goes back to some classic studies done in social psychology in the 60s and 70s. No matter what you did, you failed. Everybody else did better, everybody's smarter, I'm no good, and so on and so on. And what CBT is designed to do is make you aware that you have this as a bias, that you are distorting your reality, either of others or of yourself. And so CBT has, this was developed by Aaron Beck, and it's been well researched now. You saw the studies the results that came out 3 weeks ago, Brenda, that they over-reported the, so this is not, it turns out that CBT is about 15% less effective than we thought, but that's true across the board, right? I mean everything's 15% less, but still, it has some effect for sometimes. So what CBT does is it develops you develop through exercises, you become mindful of your bias. And really the goal of CBT is that through this kind of mindfulness, seeing that you have this pattern in how you think, you will shift from a negative bias to a positive bias. So so that was the point of her prayer. So her prayer is in fact an exercise in CBT. You start the day by reminding yourself, reminding everyone around you, reminding your children of the things that you should be grateful for, things that you will take for granted. And we know that this works. We know that something as simple as self-reminders in the morning of what you can be grateful for. Don't go to the negative, but instead accentuate the positive, does in fact affect mood, does in fact affect your cognitive, your bias. It will shift you.